All right, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. Had to get to my. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, there we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry I was having a little bit of technical difficulties with my video. If I can get attention back here, please, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 2 of our AP World History Review session. Thank you so much for being here. I do really appreciate it. Listen, I know some of you are coming from rehearsal. Some of you have eaten only popcorn and leftover pasta after a swim race. Others of you are coming from 9 million practices and other things. So I know you're tired, and I do really appreciate you being here. I also know that it was a half day today, so you had to work extra hard to get back here a little bit later. So thank you very much for being here. The AP exam is coming up in about 3.5 weeks. About 3.5 weeks. 4.5 weeks? It is 4. No, it's 3.5 weeks. We got about 3.5 weeks. On May 16th is the AP exam. Now, nice. I just want to go through basic things to remind you of what you can expect when you show up. And just before we begin, there are a lot of you. There's only one of me. I am loud, but please work with me. Again, our time is valuable here. Your time is valuable. I want to make sure we use it to the best we possibly can and make sure we get as much done as we can during this time to make it as useful as possible. So I'm just going to ask that we keep side conversations down. When I have attention up here, just please give me your attention. If you feel at any point in time like you need to go, feel free to leave. I'm not going to take it personally. That's okay. This is your time. Cool? So, and the exam is on Thursday, May 16th. Thursday, May 16th. It's a late start for the whole school except for you. The exam begins promptly at 8 a.m. You will be here on Thursday, May 16th at 7:30 a.m. I would argue you should get here earlier than that. I would probably be here by 7:15, but no later than 7:30. 7:30. You'll be at the Thursday morning. You're gonna let's take it back. On Wednesday night, you're gonna go to bed early. You're gonna go to bed early. Now it depends on who you are. If you're Ben and you normally go to bed at 2 a.m., you should go to bed at about 11, right? If you're a person who goes to bed at 8 already, then Zosha, you just go to bed at 8 like you normally do. But I want you to go to bed. I would say no later than about 10:30 or 11. No later than about 10:30 or 11. I want you to wake up on Thursday morning bright and early. I would say about 6:30-ish if you're trying to get here by 7:30. Make yourself a good breakfast, right? I don't want you running out and having a granola bar. I don't want you just eating some sugary cereal. I want something that's going to be brain food for you. Have some oatmeal. Have some eggs. Have some bacon. Something that's going to get a little meat on your bones and get your belly filled and ready to go. Yes. What? Don't worry about that. Now, what you have on, what I want you to also remember, you have to bring a few things to the AP exam. One of the things that you do not need a calculator for this exam, Emma, but you do need to bring at least 2 pencils. Please bring at least 2 pencils, and I would say number 2 pencils are your best bet, but bring at least 2 pencils. If you're somebody who really writes dark, bring 3. Bring 3. You also need to have at least 2 blue or black pens. You may not write your essay in pink. You may not write your essay in green. You need to write your essay in blue or black ink. Yes, the College Board requires that you write your essay in ink. If you write it in pencil, they won't grade it. You need to learn how to commit, California. Learn how to commit. Pen's like, I got that. Now, that's good. So, that is what you're going to bring. You're also going to bring two other things. You're going to bring a snack that is not like hot Cheetos snack. I want you to bring some sort of granola bar, a Cliff Bar. Again, something that can get your brain going. And then I want you to also bring water. If you have a water bottle, that would be the best. If you like Mr. Gettler, make sure it's not plastic. But that's what you need to make sure that you have. Cool? You're going to show up at 7:30 in the morning. You're going to show up at 7:30 in the morning. You're going to check what your room 55 minutes to answer them. You will then, after that 55 minutes, go straight into, side conversation please, you'll go straight into the short answer question. You will have about 40 minutes to answer 3 short answer questions, about 10 to 11 minutes per question that you'll have. Then, you take a break. That is when you eat your little snack. That's when you get a good drink of water. That's when you get yourself all ready to go. But you will not talk about the exam. If the proctor hears you talking about the exam, they might void your score. So you cannot talk about the exam. Cool? You then go back, and you will have an essay section. You'll be writing 2 essays. They will give you an hour and, you'll have 100 minutes, whatever that is. Hour and 40 minutes, right? And, so you'll have 100 minutes to write 2 essays. You'll write 2 essays. You'll write a document-based question, and you'll write a long essay question. You do not have to start with the DBQ. The DBQ will be first, but you can start with the LEQ if you'd like. The DBQ will have a set of 7 documents that you have to use in order to answer a question. For the LEQ, they will give you 3 different prompts. You get to choose 1 to write. So when you get to that, please don't look at the 3 prompts and go, Mr. Upton online, there are 4 prompts. You answer 1. Okay? And it'll have the same sort of theme, and it'll usually be in 3 different time periods. Yes. I don't know off the top of my head. I should know that. Yes.
Do they score like the MCQ, that SAQ, and that LQ, and then they take the average of all those?
Yep.
They're all scored individually.
They're all scored individually by different people. Huh? What do you mean by that? Weighted? Yes. There is. I want to say 50% is the essay, 40% multiple choice, and I don't know. I think it's 40 or something like that. Maybe 30. It's not sure. I can't remember. You have to. The way it's graded now, you have to. If you don't write a cohesive essay, you won't get. You'll probably get some points, but you might get 2 points for the essay. Ladies and gentlemen, after you are done, I can't guarantee anything, but I have a feeling you're probably going to feel a little ill. You're probably going to feel a little ill because the exam is in the morning, which means after the exam you are expected to go back to class. But if you're feeling ill and if your parents call in about your sickness that you suddenly get, afterwards you might be able to go home and rest if you needed that. Now, of course, it's only if you are feeling ill, but usually students feel ill after the AP exam. So maybe plan on feeling ill is what I'm saying to you. Good. Any questions on the day of AP exam? I'm going to do this every single time for the review session because I think it's really important for students to know what it is they're getting into. And I think the more you know going into it, the less surprises and the less stressed, at least I hope, that you will be. For some of you, it's stress is just going to happen. But if I can take away any of that stress, I will try to. I will be there that Thursday morning, high-fiving you and yelling and screaming and getting you all ready to go. So don't worry, I will be there. Cool? Right. So the first section is multiple choice. And we know that these multiple choice are stimulus-based. They are stimulus-based multiple choice questions, which means each multiple choice question has a document, a reading, a chart, a picture that is associated with it. You are to use that document in order to stimulate your mind to help you answer the questions. Which also means, in addition to doing that, the questions are going to be spiraled. What that means is the first question will be directly related to the document. The further you get down away from the document, the question will use the document less and less and require more of just your own historical knowledge. Does that make sense? That usually means, not guaranteed, but that usually means the questions right after the documents are typically the quote-unquote easier ones. Not always, but usually. Now, these questions, we want to use the same strategy. Our first strategy is always read the questions before you read the document. That way you know what it is you're looking for. In addition, some of the questions you're just going to know the answer to because of your knowledge of history. So sometimes you're just going to know the answer, and that can save some time if you can just get through those. The second thing I want you to do is every single question you should be using the process of elimination. You should, if you don't know it, know it. You should quote the Raven, Nevermore, Edgar Allan Poe. You should process of elimination. So we're going to go through some of these questions, and we are going to look at what the answers are not. So if I call on you, I want you to read the question and tell me what his answer is not. Which one is not the answer? Mr. Ewart, start us off with number one. Khatib? What is it not? Jake. It is not D. Why not? Okay. I would say this is not necessarily. I would not necessarily say it's because it's pre-Islamic. I would say because this doesn't really have to do with Christianity as much, or Zoroastrianism. What else can it not be? Zosha, why not A? Yeah, the Enlightenment doesn't happen until the 18th century, so it can't be that. So it can't be A, it can't be D. What else can it not be? Why not B? Yeah, a Taoist response to this would be, dude, rub a leaf on it. Right? A Taoist response to this is to go out into nature and meditate. That's not actually a Taoist response, but I'm being, tongue-in-cheek here. But yeah, it can't be B. It's not obviously Taoism. Therefore, the answer is C. Now, we know that. Why? Listen. Very good. It's the Islamic Empire that translates Greek texts and texts from the Roman Empire and uses them in order to have have a golden age of Arabic science, medicine, and mathematics. It's the Islamic empires that are going to save Europe from completely falling off of the map. Good. Number 2. Aiden. Number 2. Yes, you. Very good. Why not? Sure. What diseases ever cause longer life? Right? Diets associated with improvements in diet and longevity. When we eat better, don't we feel better? No, give me all the junk food. Right now, I want hot Cheetos for life. Right? No, when we eat better, we feel better. And then longevity? No, that doesn't make sense just because that whole sentence doesn't make sense. Good. What else is not the answer? Somebody said D? C? Why not C? A similar time period. STDs are not around. It. There were STDs or STIs. Now, what is the real problem with this? Very good. Contact with the Western Hemisphere, which doesn't happen until 1490s. I know that one. That's Columbus. Good. What else can it not be? Why not A? Yeah, malaria is in sub-Saharan Africa. Wow, that is incredible. Right? That's really good. Malaria is sub-Saharan Africa. The Saharan Desert says no. Yeah, exactly. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it is B. Now, hold on a second. I want to hypothesize for a second. No, not hypothesize. I want to do a hypothetical. What if, ladies and gentlemen, let's just say we weren't rock stars and we didn't remember that malaria was only in sub-Saharan Africa? What if maybe we forgot that syphilis in Spain because of contact with Native Americans? We just didn't read that right. And we were just reading through this question, right? It says plague in it, but what time period is this document? 1300. Ladies and gentlemen, around 1300, what major impact did the Mongols have? The Black Death, right? That's a major event in world history that you can remember in order to help you do that. So that's going to be the Black Death. Good. Number three. Ross, number 3 for us. I'm sorry, Roz, you're eating.
Sorry.
You want me to just call somebody else?
The passage by all that illustrates the following.
Very good. What is it not?
Less than me?
Yes.
Oh. Well. Not D. Not D.
Why not D? What?
I'm not doing so well.
Okay, let's help her out a little bit. Why can it not be D? Yeah, it's not really talking about the spreading of faith in this document. What else can it not be? Why not B? Wait, somebody say C? Why not C? What? Yeah, it doesn't really talk about the Reconquista. Reconquista is going to be a little bit after this, by the way, but it doesn't talk about the Reconquista. Go, what else can it not be? Yeah, why not A? It's not really a travel book or story, right? It's not talking about what he saw when he went there. It's definitely a specific medical journal, right? This is a scientific document. So therefore, the answer is B, right? The growth of scientific thought and innovation in Muslim Spain, right? Hold on, I want to look at this for a second. Oh, it does say Spain. Okay, good. And just to make me feel good about my life on a Monday evening, what was Muslim Spain called? Yes, Al-Andalus. Thank you. And you remember that because you're from Santa Barbara and? Very good, Roz, because the architecture in Santa Barbara is Andalusian architecture modeled after southern Spain, which was controlled by the Moors or the Berbers or the Muslims, if you will. Okay. All right. Hey, let's look at... Yeah, A. Yeah, A. I just wanted to read and make sure, just to go through. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's do number... Ooh! We did A. Let's do number 5, just because I want to do number 5, and then we'll move on. No, I want to know what it is not. So, Gabe, read number 5 for us. Hold on, I gotta hear Gabe. Ooh. What can it not be? Why not C? I mean, it kind of shows wind, but not really. So it can't be that. Somebody said it can't be D? Why not? Yeah, it's not the time period of the Umayyad Caliphate. Nicely done, Amanda. Right? 13th century, that's way after the Umayyad. In fact, the 13th century is about to be the decline of the Abbasid.
Umayyad is 600 to 800. Now, when I say 600, I mean like 650 kind of ish. But yeah. Okay, what else can it not be? Why not B?
I mean, large-scale trading, they probably mean, again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask side conversations. If you'd rather socialize, then just go home. If you'd rather socialize, go home. That's okay. That's okay with me. That should be okay with you. If your time's better spent with others, then do it. So, it's not going to be the large-scale trading organizations. I mean, honestly, that doesn't really start until we get into the early modern era with joint stock companies. You could maybe argue there was some, depends on how you define large-scale, I guess. But that wouldn't be it. So what is it going to be? It's going to be A, transportation and maritime technologies. Do I really like that question? No. Do I really think they're using this document for transportation and maritime technologies? I don't really think that's what they're using this document for. But maybe you could see just that it happened. I mean, honestly, I think it's more evidence of the increasing influence of Islam, but that's neither here nor there. Yes, Mr. Fannin. I don't think transportation. I think if anything, it's the extensive spread of Islam as they're carrying people back to Mecca. I think that's a really good use of this document. I mean, are you really getting an in-depth knowledge of their boat? I mean, I guess they have an anchor. Oh, it is it. Yeah, I'm just saying I don't like this question. Now, what is this question asking? Yeah, the question is, the question's a funky one, and the College Board likes these ones. They want you to be thinking as a historian, what would this document be used for? So they also want you to just kind of know, how do historians think in general? So they're asking you to just say, as a historian, what would you use this document for? It's not really saying, what is this document talking about? It's not really saying, what is this document? It's asking, what would you use it for? Which is a different type of question that they're doing more and more of these types of questions. They're a lot of fun. Aiden.
Are these from past AP tests?
Yes. These are AP questions. You're welcome. Okay, so any questions on multiple choice?
What would be six? Maybe six is A, right?
Six.
A is A, sound like the same thing. D is just kind of more like vague.
Are you talking about for number 6?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, like, yeah, it's the same thing, it's just D is more vague.
Yes.
So, I mean, I said like A.
So let me ask. Let's go through it. It can't be, right? It can't be C, because this isn't recruiting soldiers, right? They're going to Mecca. That's not why you would do that, though. I mean, that's just not what was done. But plus, there'd have to be more weaponry or something like that. That's not what it looks like here. To create diasporic merchant communities, which, by the way, gosh, I love that phrase. It's up there somewhere. Diasporic merchant communities, right? Well, there diasporic Muslim communities because of trade, sure, but that's not why they're traveling there, right? They're bringing people to Mecca, so they're not trying to create a diasporic community. So, is it to convert other people of other faiths to Islam? Now, Jackie, I'm going to go with it could be. It could be. But what you see here is carrying pilgrims to Mecca. Because they're pilgrims, they're already Islamic. Does that make sense? Now, what do we know about Islam and the role of Islam in general? Islam as a religion was a way to bind the northern and southern hemispheres together. So Islam was used to bind traditions together. So it is D. Of course they do. They want to convert them, but they're taking pilgrims. They're already Islam. If you're a pilgrim, you're a No, Mecca is the holy city of Islam. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, think that's what they're testing. All right, and then you wanted me to do 7. Oh, come on. What would have been disruption in the 17th century? Sorry, 16th century, even better. Probably disrupted by B, the arrival of Portuguese and other Europeans. Now. Hold on a second. This is a little tricky. Number 1, 16th century is what years? 1500s, right? No. In the 1500s, Zheng He has already stopped. In the 1500s, Zheng He has already stopped. The Ming Dynasty has said, no more China for the Chinese, right? Safe space China. But what you look at what you see happening in the 1500s are the Portuguese and the Spanish smashing their way into Indian Ocean trade. And that's largely the early modern era. We'll get to that next week. Zosha. Not that they did nothing, but that would have disrupted more because they're the only ones with cannons. And Zheng He isn't out to conquer anybody. Zheng He is just walking around flexing. Yes, I just said it. Because we just had a long discussion about it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to move in. Any questions on multiple choice? Again, I want to remind you, it's very important. Read the questions before you read the documents. Use process of elimination. Listen, I take these AP exams, right? I get the questions, I take them. Sometimes I'm giving students, usually in my first semester, I'll give students a final and it's just an old AP exam. And sometimes I literally go through it and I take them. I can tell you, the times I've gotten them wrong, it isn't because I didn't know. It's usually because I assumed I knew the answer and I just kept going without process of elimination. So go through and actually mentally, don't actually do it, mentally cross out the ones you know it cannot be. Cool? I don't know if you're allowed to write on them. You are? Then you can. So actually write it down. Just not on my test. I am mean to you. Yes! Separate answer sheet. So you bubble it in. Good question. That's why you need a pencil. But that's what it looks like. But you just have to bubble in on the other side. Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to transition us to my content Prezi. My hope is that we get through this Prezi relatively quickly. And I say that relatively, meaning that. And then we'll get into some essay work as well. Again, this is being recorded. I'm recording this right now. If you learn better by sitting and listening, that's not a bad idea. But if I were you, I'd have, just like you do, your iPads, your laptops, a pen and pencil ready to go, just so that you can mark some things. I want you to just mark on a piece of paper things that you don't remember, things where you have to say, oh yeah, I forgot about that, or I need to review that, things where you might say, ask Oftedal later. Those are all good things. It's on the bottom base of it, on the right. That's the left. 22nd. Okay, no, that's okay. All right, I need a drink of water. There it is. Before we get going here. Yes, you do. You do. It's under the resources. Prezi. All right, here we go. Yes. I'm not answering that right now. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. As we go through this, ladies and gentlemen, we are on our second time period, 600 to 1450 CE, and this is
known as the post-classical era. The post-classical era. Now, we have a theme to the post-classical era. It tends to be one of the favorite themes of students of mine. They tend to remember this one a little bit better than others do, because the theme of the post-classical era is, of course, hemispheric integration. Hemispheric integration, which is a really smart, intelligent, dorky way of saying that what we find happening during the post-classical era is that human societies of the northern and the southern hemispheres are going to begin to interact more. And they are going to create two separate world systems. The world systems of Afro-Eurasia, which I always remind Blake is not Eurasia with an Afro, but the combination of Africa and Eurasia. And then you also have the Americas coming together to be kind of one sort of maybe kind of unified world system known as the American Web. American Web. American Web. Spider-Man. Thank you for that. Hemispheric integration. So as we look at our time period, what we want to be thinking about. There we go. Wait, what? Oh, that's why. I was at the end. What we want to be looking at is how you see increased interactions during this time period. Again, that guy is the late, great Jerry H. Bentley, who is the man who wrote not only the textbook that I wish we were using in this course, Jerry H. Bentley, but also the guy who wrote the hemispheric integration article. He's the guy who coined the phrase that I so use, and he's wonderful and brilliant, and his textbook is 36 chapters, and I wish we read that one instead, because then you have 2 chapter weeks every week. I agree. Hemispheric integration. Now, I want to just take a second to go back to explain kind of where we came from. When we looked at last week, we looked at the development of human civilization after agriculture. 10,000 BCE, humans begin to settle down, and they begin to form more complex societies. By 3,500 BCE, those complex societies become what historians call civilization. And we see the foundations for civilization occurring from 3,500 BCE to 600 BCE. During the classical era, we see the explosion of civilization to create these massive empires. And these empires are going to largely expand out and encompass a majority of the territory in each of our major geographic regions. The Roman Empire is going to conquer much of Europe. The Han Dynasty is going to conquer much of East Asia. Japan's going to get into it, which we'll talk about eventually. You see the Mauryan and Gupta dynasty conquering much of South Asia. Each of these regions are becoming kind of who they are. They're formulating what Indian traditions are, what European traditions are, what East Asian traditions are. Now with hemispheric integration, we see the interactions between those separate regions increasing. And they're going to have major impacts on each other. So that's what we're looking at. So when we look at hemispheric integration, what we're really looking at, and one of the major drivers of hemispheric integration, is the increase in pre-existing trade routes. Now, these trade routes are inter-regional. They had already started in the classical era. And the most important trade routes of the post-classical era are the Silk Roads, which connect China and Europe, largely along the coast of the continent, obviously Silk Road. The Indian Ocean trade network, which was over the Indian Ocean, over the water, are going to be more bulk commodities. That's going to be cotton textiles and spices, especially pepper. Holy pepper was worth a lot of money back then, largely because other foods are just bland and boring. You can ask Ms. Coleman about English food. Now, the trans-Saharan trade routes were essentially going across the Sahara Desert, connecting sub-Saharan Africa or West Africa to the Mediterranean and Europe, and along that was gold, salt, and slaves. So you do see the diffusion of luxury products, but also of bulk commodities across the Indian Ocean. You're going to see major effects to each society because of these things. That's what the Trans-Saharan is. Good call, Leha. Nicely done. Because it was over the Sahara Desert, which was the sand. Of course you do. All right. So why now? What is it that is causing hemispheric integration? Whoa. Very good. What is causing these trade routes to intensify? Why is it during this period that we really see trade increasing? Well, one of the biggest that causes is the development or re-emergence of, unified empires. There's going to be two types of empires during the post-classical era. The first makes a lot of sense. You look back at the classical era, you know that those empires were founded on surpluses of agriculture. And you see the re-emergence of these agricultural empires, most notably the Byzantine in Europe. Now, before we get too far in here, our time period ends, or begins when? 600 BCE. 600 CE, right? Good. When did the Roman Empire fall? 476, right? In 476, now in 476, how does the Roman Empire fall? You see the Western half of the Roman Empire going to bumble stuff. Western Europe, they take two hands, smack their own bum. They're nothing. They literally lose all of their connection to the outside world, and they go into almost a darkness and chaos. You remember that because you went to Washington and there's a lot in the you know that. But on the eastern side of Europe, you see the Byzantine Empire maintaining those Roman traditions and keeping Europe connected to the rest of the world. So it's the Byzantine Empire that's going to do so in Europe. And you see the Sui, Tang, and Sung dynasties in East Asia. No, it is not the Sui, Tang, and Song dynasties. Sui, Tang, Sung. And Sui, Tang, Sung, China is going to unify much of East Asia, going to bring it back after a period of warring states, and you're going to see incredible interactions between the northern and southern hemispheres, and also into Central Asia as well. But alongside our traditional empires is also the emergence of a new group. Now, when I say new, I don't mean to the world, but a group that had not really played a major role in the global stage before this, and will not actually play a major role in the global stage after this. And that is the emergence of our pastoral empire. These pastoral nomadic groups that are largely coming from either Southwest Asia or Central Asia. The first group that we see taking power is the Arabs. Now, the Arabs are going to create Islamic caliphate. Wait a minute. When did Islam start? 610 CE. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think the College Board cares more about the fall of Rome or the founding of Islam? The founding of Islam. Ladies and gentlemen, the founding of the Islamic Empire is considered one of the beginnings of hemispheric integration. The College Board and historians argue that Islam is going to be the first major event that is going to cause this hemispheric integration. The Islamic Empire sounds a little interesting because Islam is a religion, right? Now, the Islamic Empire is going to be unique in that its religion is going to be connected to its political history as well. Muhammad in 610 CE gets a revelation from God. He then begins to create his ummah, his world of Islam. I'm not going to go through the whole story of Islam here, but essentially, as Islam expands militarily, it is also going to expand as a religion as well. When we talk about the Islamic caliphate, it is Muhammad and his successors that will both politically and religiously spread their influence across northern Africa, into Western Europe, and into Southwest Asia. You're going to see Islam being a major spreader and facilitator of hemispheric integration as Islam spreads both as a religion and as an empire. And of course, around 1200, our favorite pastoral group takes power, and that is the Mongols under Genghis Khan. The Mongols do something that is absolutely incredible. They create the largest land-based empire in history in one person's lifetime. It's incredible. They defeat the Chinese. They defeat the Persians. They defeat everybody in their way. And then they disappear just as fast as they can. But the Mongols are literally going to create hemispheric integration because they're going to conquer so much and put it all under one centralized empire. Now, of course, in the Americas, we also have centralization of empires that are going to facilitate interaction. That's going to be the Aztec and the Incas. There are others in North America that aren't as large, but the Aztec and the Incas are going to represent two major empires that deserve a lot of attention. Yes. do love the tongue. Ladies and gentlemen, we also see another driver of trade, and something that's also going to help influence interaction is the development of trading organizations. One of the most prominent is in Europe. Actually, pick up the is in Europe, and it's in Northern Europe, mostly around the Baltic. It's known as the Hanseatic League. Also, it's known as the Hanseatic League. I hate the Hanseatic League because they politically manipulated Scandinavia and didn't allow Norway, Sweden, and Denmark to become one unified, all-powerful empire that could have dominated and improved, mind you, Europe during that time period. God! The Hanseatic League, they were a group of northern Germanic cities that kind of came together and agreed upon regulations and things, and also influenced politics and regions in order to protect trade. That's just one example of trading organizations that came about during that time period. Now, of course, all of you know why is there hemispheric integration in general, and probably the best answer for it, and really the answer to why a lot of things happen in history, is because of the technology that was available. It's during this time that you see technology allowing for people to travel greater distances and to have increased contact with each other. Now, one of the greatest inventions, of course, of human history is the camel, which the College Board actually lists as one of the inventions of the post-classical era. So now you know that humans invented the camel during this time period. Good. Also, camel caravans are important to understand. Ladies and gentlemen, camel caravans. You don't need to see a picture of a camel caravan. Camel caravan, literally a group of camels and merchants that are riding camels. Again, hey guys, I gotta tell you, side conversations really gotta stop because I can't be talking over you. People are trying to listen and you're distracting them. So if you can't focus, then go steady on your own. Good. Another technological innovation was the understanding of monsoon winds. Now, this isn't something that's necessarily new. This is happening during the classical era, and even during the pre-classical era. But people are gaining better understanding of wind currents and wind patterns, allowing them to go across the Indian Ocean faster and more conveniently. You also see new techniques economically helping in both Europe and in the Islamic Empire and in China. Actually, you're going to see the development of paper money. In China, it's known as flying cash. In the Islamic Empire, it's known as the stock, S-H-A-K. Those are the first early forms of checks. And in Europe, you're going to see banks being developed. All of these places allow for interactions and exchanges to happen easier because instead of carrying around a giant bag of gold that you can use, you can literally give somebody a piece of paper and say, go ahead to this bank and pull out this amount of money. So that's banking and things. And then I always throw this one in there, something that was developed during this time period, the stirrup, which allows you to ride a horse more effectively, so and so on. How did they realize? I think they just figured out that camels could go away. I'm sure they were already riding camels, and I think they just tested some tribes and further until they were better. And then they were okay. So when we look at effects, of hemispheric integration, what we have to understand is first things first. As we see more people traveling, and we see more people gaining wealth from certain aspects of trade, one of the things that we see happening is the decline and the growth of cities. Now, I say decline largely because of what happens during the Black Plague. During the Black Plague, everybody died. With the Black Plague, you're going to see the decline of cities. But for the most part, during this time period, you see boom in these trade cities across the world. They boom. Some examples up there are Timbuktu, which is where your parents want to send all of you. You guys are giving them too hard of a time. Constantinople in Europe, Hangzhou. Huh? No, that's because that's a common phrase. Is I'm gonna send you all the way to Timbuktu or something like that. Or that was out of nowhere. That was out of Timbuktu. Well, that makes sense because that's the honeymooners. I'm gonna one of these days, Alice. I'm gonna invite you to counted India. When we look at the effects of trade, back here. When we look at the effects of trade, I call it holy diffusion. Literally, the spread of pretty much everything is going to be the effects of these increased interactions. The spread of languages. Turkic is going to be a popular language during the post-classical era. Why? Well, that's because of the invasion of the Turkic people, especially towards the end of the Abbasid dynasty. You see those Turkish nomadic people from Central Asia invading the Abbasid dynasty and becoming Aladdin and the sultans. You also see the spread of Chinese, especially to Japan and to Vietnam and to Korea. I don't know why I didn't put Korea in there as well. You're going to see the spread of cultural traditions. We already talked about the spread of Islam, but also the spread of Buddhism. Borobudur! You see the adoption of these religions by rulers and leaders in order to legitimize their authority. You'll see the spread of Christianity. All the way into China. Also, Islam does spread to China, especially to Xinjiang, the Uyghur people. Yes, that is Central Asia. It is now part of China. Cultural traditions you get. Also, scientific knowledge. I mean, this is the time when you really see the spread of technological innovation, like such as the mechanical clock from China, the printing press from China. Don't you give me that gunpowder from China. You're going to see the smooth sail from the Indian Ocean. You're going to see, oh my gosh, Arabic numerals when you go to algebra or math 4 contraction, whatever you're doing, and you use numbers. You are using Arabic numerals, which was something that diffused across the world during the post-classical era. Oh, and the concept of zero, but Ms. Jacobs students, you already know that because the dirty word southernization, which I say, and it makes you guys cringe a little bit. It's because they read an article about southernization for about 3 weeks in class. Which is very true, because everything we really know comes from here. I gave you now they're listening. Ladies and gentlemen, crop, the champa rice. The champa rice is, that's very nice. That is very sweet. Wow. Hand-delivered car. I got it. Crop, the champa rice from Vietnam is going to increase the population of China. So don't forget that crops are also being diffused. Yes, drought resistant. Very good. Yeah. And then, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we already talked about it. The disease is going to spread. The plague is probably the best example of that. But there's also spreading of smallpox and measles. And this is always fun to just show students this. Right into that. Don't worry, this presentation gets better. What? What? Maybe. I don't know if any of them are open. Sorry. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, other economic effects. And again, I'm looking more specifically at the different themes for each. Ladies and gentlemen, it's important to understand, and it's not something that I necessarily covered explicitly in class. So again, I'm trying to give you themes and things that understand. There was an increase in agricultural production because of new technology. This is going to have a slightly different effect. What this is really going to see as an impact is in labor organizations. Now, these are examples of labor organizations. These are not things that you need to know specifically all about, but just know that these are examples of the change in the way people organize their labor. Oh, yes, all of the effective hemisphere integration and increased interaction between people in the northern and southern hemisphere. So, ladies and gentlemen, there was a free peasant organization. In Europe, most of the peasants were serfs. What serfs mean is you cannot leave the place that you are living. You are literally bound to the land, and you are bound to the person who owns that land. Serfs, if you were a noble, you could do anything to your serfs. Literally, you were their legal counsel. They couldn't get married without your permission, and they couldn't leave without your permission. You told them what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. But every once in a while, the Byzantine Empire, in order to try to encourage farming and to try to appease some peasant uprisings, are going to free the peasants from serfdom. And it's going to allow peasants to kind of move around a little bit. So there is at certain times, they go back and forth from it for some reason, to this idea of free peasantry. Pastoralism, do you understand pastoralism? That's the lifestyle of the Mongols. Instead of being settled down in one area, they are migrating around, largely relying on their domestication of animals, and in conquering other peoples. They're also facilitating trade in between agricultural civilizations. They're really the glue that binds human societies together. Guilds in Europe are a professional organization. A way of protecting a certain industry. If you lived in a city in Western Europe or Eastern Europe, and you wanted to be some sort of artisan, you wanted to be a carpenter, you wanted to be a stonemason, somebody who produces things, you would have to join a guild. And what a guild does is it creates regulations for how you enter into that industry, and for pricing, how much you charge for things, and how much you will get paid by your bosses. It's essentially a way of making sure that one industry does not get flooded with people working in it and then decrease the value in it. So in order to join in fact, we have unions today that act as guilds essentially. If you want to be a carpenter today, you got to join the carpenters union. You got to become a journeyman at first. You got to prove that you can do something. Then you can become a master, and then eventually become a master. I don't know all those steps to it. But once you become a master, then you can become like a super master. Jake's dad is a super master. That's good. I still have my polo. I should have worn it today. Sorry. I do love that polo. Very comfortable, by the way. It's brown. It's not my favorite or flattering color on me, but it is very soft. It is very soft. I appreciate it. Share that one. Even though you didn't take my class, Jake. Now, slavery and serfdom. All right, slavery and serfdom are two also ways of coerced labor systems. I want you to know that word, coerced labor systems. Because again, during the early modern era, people are going to use certain methods in order to force people to work for them. Slavery is one of them. You're going to see that especially in the Islamic empires, especially as they go into Africa. Slavery is going to be a major one, but also serfdom in Europe, which I've already pretty much described. And then in addition, in order to, again, coerce people to do things, the Chinese Empire, Sui Tong and so on, are going to use labor taxes in order to build the and keep going on the Great Wall of China, and the Inca are going to force this with the Mitre system. In order to build public works, instead of taxing money, they will simply just force you to go work for a certain number of years on a public works project. Leave your family, go take a family vacation, but away from your family, not like on a break. The Mitre system or labor taxes? Oh, don't worry about it. I was making Inca. Inca is the Mitre system. So, ladies and gentlemen, what are the effects of hemispheric integration socially? Well, I mean, the biggest examples of this, are going to be that they don't really change all that much. Traditional authorities are going to remain in most places where hemispheric integration occurs. This is seen as caste and nobility are the things that are going to determine people's status in life. In Western Europe, you literally have feudalism. You have your kings, you have your lords, you have nobles, you have your knights, you have your peasants, and you have your serfs. And that's a stratified social hierarchy that you cannot get out of. Good thing you're a Christian, because you have a little bit of hope that after you die, you'll go to heaven. So there's little reason for your suffering, because Jesus put you in that. But in other places, you also see caste system. In India, that's going to remain. That's not really going to change at all. Places like Islam, and actually the Mongols as well, will adopt these social hierarchies as they conquer into places. As they conquer into places, they'll keep those. Another place that I want you to remember when we talk about feudalism is Japan. During the you see Japan mimicking Europe very much so in its feudal organization. Before I confuse you, but before I confuse you, when I say mimic, I don't mean like Japan and Europe had interaction and they're copying. They kind of did the same thing. But Japan had their shoguns, had their general warlords that had power. They then, the daimyo, who then had their shogun. Who then had their shogun. Then the daimyo, who had their shogun. You then had the samurai as kind of the knight class, and then of course you have the peasants under the yeah, that's what that was the word of the shogun. Good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with hemispheric integration, and probably a really good system in general, as interactions occurred amongst people, as religion spread, but more importantly, as more wealth was gained by each society, we see patriarchy tightening. We see patriarchy getting tighter. And that's largely seen by the gatekeeping of the Chinese women as we get into foot binding. And as we get to see foot binding, we need to see foot binding, of course. Right? I love that she's just pointing at it. That's the best. And the best part about this is a colored photo, so you know it's within the last 100 years. That's gnarly. Right? So, ladies and gentlemen, foot binding is a great example of how women in China, how patriarchy increased. Because nothing says #swag, I'm rich. Like, my wife doesn't even have to walk, right? I can literally have people, I can pay people to just carry her around because her foot is broken. It's so cute. It's just little shoes. It's adorable. Everybody loves buying baby shoes because they're so small. Why not always wear baby shoes? Now, this practice of foot binding was really unique to China, but I also want you to know, as industries became wealthy, women were kicked out of them. You'll see that happening in Europe. You see that happen. You see that happen in China. You see that happen again as a. Sounds so cool to be on a bike, kid. So sick to be at school when you don't have to be pranking teachers. That makes you so cool. Okay. All right. Okay, good. Ladies and gentlemen, something that we cover fairly well is that the effects of hemispheric integration will cause the golden age of two places. That's the golden age of China and the golden age of Islam. What do I mean by the golden age? I mean it's a time of cultural but what that means is that you have literary traditions that are going to be developed, poetry, epic stories are going to be told. Aladdin is a Chinese story. It's a Chinese story about their contact with Islam. When you go through the real life version of Islam, there's no Chinese people in it. You could say historically inaccurate. And, anyway, that's there. So in China you see, and not just literature, but also a golden age of technology as well, and scientific advancement. China is going to largely create all the inventions that does anything for Europe in the early modern era. Islam, again, is also going to have its golden age. Islam is going to be one of the most scientifically and especially scientifically advanced, and especially in the field of medicine. If you were a crusader soldier and you found yourself injured on the battlefield, you wanted to pray to God, you were found by a Muslim, right? Because if you're found by a Christian priest, they're just going to carve a cross into your head and let you bleed out and pray over you. Because they thought bleeding you out was the way to solve all sorts of issues. Literally, sickle each other. And then there is actually a black and white written column of a guy literally carved a cross in his head. But if you get found by an Islamic doctor, they'll actually know what they're doing. They'll perform eye surgery and other forms of surgeries that were advanced for their time period. They did it. Quite something. And alcohol. Yes. They probably use opium too. Yeah. Last thing I want to say, because I can't say this enough. With Islam, again, Islam is seen as one of those founding events for the post-classical era, and that's what the College Board is important. So when you think about Islam, you want to think how is Islam creating how are they creating these and facilitating these interactions? Well, one way that they're doing that is by largely giving people over a large territory a common worldview. Not just a worldview, but a common language, a common understanding of how to study things. And this is largely seen because anywhere Islam spread, you see the development of the ulama. The ulama are those educated elites that are teaching in Islamic universities known as madrasas. Say it again. Madrasas, which are Islamic universities. So it makes sense that somebody in Western Europe, in Spain, could be reading a medical treatise from somebody all the way over in Istanbul, understand it, talk to it, and then maybe talk to it, give examples and feedback on it, and then send it back. That makes sense. So Islam creates that connections, and that's why I wanted to make sure that was up there as well. Moving on. Oh, good. Last slide. Now, ladies and gentlemen, post-classical state building. I just want to make sure you understand, how do people gain and maintain power as they are building these empires? Yeah. No, this would actually be more of a cause. But how do they get power? Well, we see a continuity of traditional techniques. Number one, you're going to see the use of religion. Islam is using religion to gain and maintain power. And the Byzantine Empire is going to have my favorite term, Caesaro-papism, right? Caesar over Pope, right? Very good, right? Caesaro-papism, which is going to be used. You're going to see that same thing in China as you see the use of the Confucian civil service exam in order to create a bureaucracy and Confucianism in general. You're going to see patriarchy being used. Most of the rulers during this time period are going to be men, except for evil Empress Wu. Oh, she's evil. God, it's just because she's a woman. No, she essentially kills her. She has not her husband. Actually, she has some of her children killed and some of her rivals killed in order to gain more power in China. Yeah, and it's because she's a woman. Anyway, don't worry about it. Now, the aristocracy is also. Ladies and gentlemen, Harry knows this very well. But you're going to see this for any major empire, any major ruler. If you want to maintain authority, you want to keep your nobility happy, right? Because the nobility are the only ones that can actually overthrow you because they're the ones with the money. So making sure your nobility is happy is very important. This is going to be one of the biggest problems for the emperor in Japan, but especially for kings in Europe. You want to make sure they stay happy. You see your peasant rebellion because, that's never fun. But you can always put down a peasant rebellion. They don't have to push for it. Huh? Unless it's dating, because that's also a dramatically different story. Hopefully your peasants don't outnumber you that much. Good. But you do see, and of course empire building through force, but what else is new? The Mongols are a pretty good example of empires through force, right? Either you join the Mongol horde, or we crush you and demolish you and trample your crops and have a banquet on your dead bodies. Sometimes they would kill you by digging a hole, putting you in it, but like you're still popping up out of that hole. They'd put a wooden plank down, and then they would dance on that wooden plank. Yeah, then you die. Yeah, it sounds like a blast. Anyway, there are some innovations and things that are going to change. One of the things that's going to happen is the increase of how do I say this? Well, they get better organization in their tax system. One of the great examples of taxes during the post-classical era is the jizya, which was the tax on non-Muslims as Islam expands as both an empire and religion. One way to maintain authority is to tax those people who don't look like you or talk like you. Another way of doing that and managing large territories is the tribute system. China was successfully good at the tribute system. China essentially forced the nomadic hordes around its border to give them gifts, and of course we already know this. ladies, you understand the tribute system because if any gentleman ever wants to, Emmy does this perfectly. If any gentleman ever wants to court you or take you anywhere, they must follow the tribute system policy. That means they have to bring you a gift first, and then they have to show their submissiveness. They have to show you their submissiveness by kowtowing to the floor, putting their head 9 times to the ground. Right? If there is, ladies and gentlemen, mostly ladies, if a young man does not touch his head to the ground 9 times before you and plead his submissiveness, you do not give him the benefit of an economic relationship. Right? There is no relationship without the kowtow. Got it? Yes, Sierra. You want to know more about the kowtow? That's just the emperor. It's the Middle Kingdom. The emperor of the Middle Kingdom. You want to do business with me or not? Bow down. Oh no, I'm just saying that for you. And I'm actually saying it's patriarchy because he has to bow down. The emperor's. No, that's the thing for you. I'm giving you dating advice. I love it. What actually would happen is when merchants or rulers of foreign places, if they wanted to have some sort of formal connection in China, they would have to go to the emperor. That's awesome. Tribute system. Last but not least, and I want to make sure I say this because Herod, before we get going, what's up? 9 times, Herod, 9 times. Sure, pick a lady, Herod. Because Herod's claim is that he will have 9 homecoming days. So he has a lot of kowtowing to do. That's what, is that 81 kowtow? 81 times hitting your head to the ground, T-Rod. Make sure you wear a helmet. Now, okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the last thing I want to show is political organization. And that is, yes, you have major empires, but you also have smaller subdivisions as well. In places like Italy, you'll see city-states developing. That's literally what it sounds like. Different states that are just revolving around cities. That's going to be like as we get to the Renaissance and Medici in Florence and Venice and Milan. And then also khanates and ilkhanates. Now, what those ilkhanates are is when Genghis Khan dies, he gets drunk and falls off his horse. That's so we think. Being recorded. Reminder, being recorded. Now, for all posterity. Now, when Genghis Khan dies, his grandsons and sons are unable to maintain centralized authority. And so the empire breaks up into different states, all under the control of the Mongols, but under different rulers. And those are the different ilkhanates. Does that make sense? I can. I absolutely can. When Genghis Khan dies with this massive empire that stretches from the borders of Russia into China. When he dies, his sons and grandsons are unable to agree upon and to figure out how to organize that entire territory, so it gets broken up into different ones. In addition, there's also some spreading. Maybe sons and grandsons get spread out as well. Kublai Khan is going to conquer China, Uru, and Southeast Asia. Caesar over Pope, the Byzantine emperor. It starts with Constantine when Christianity becomes the state religion of Rome. Constantine, as the emperor of Rome, has the power to appoint the Pope bishops for people who are in charge of the religion. And when the Byzantine Empire continues that, the Byzantine emperor also maintains the power of the church. Right? So the leader has both spiritual and temporal power. You know what I mean by temporal? Secular. Great.
Something like that, yeah. Genghis Khan or Ilkhanate? Genghis. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the kind of the lecture portion. I can count the number of times I've gotten a compliment from Jordan in this class. Now, especially in regards to my time management. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what I want to go over now are essays. And I want to look at essays in general. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is and for some of you this is going to be kind of an obvious review, especially if you're in my class right now. But for those of you that are in Ms. Jacobson's class, those of you that are coming back from first term, I just want to go over this fairly quickly so that you understand. And in order to do so, I do want to go into the AP rubrics just to break down exactly what it is that the College Board is looking for. So if you go under my resources and you go under essay formats, you'll see a section for LEQs. I'm just going to put it up here so you can see it. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, what this is a document that all of my students have. At least they tell me they've kept it because I use this to grade their essays every single week, and sometimes they understand that. Okay, here we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the AP essay rubric. I'm not going to go through all of this in depth, but I just want you to know what the College Board is grading you on. You guys, let me ask you a question. Do you need a 2-minute break to go to the bathroom? 2 minutes. Take 2 minutes. Take 2 minutes. I'm like looking around. And people are like.
I'm not a bad person. Accept the fans, man. Accept the fans. You move to stand away from the recording devices, so you stand in front of it. Stupid.
here, please. All right, Aleja, I need you in a seat. Whatever you're doing, stop. All right, gentlemen, come inside, and or you can end the review session. You can go if you want, but just can't be in both. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, when the College Board is grading you on these essays, the first thing they are looking for is a thesis statement. Now, I'm sure none of you have written any thesis statements in your AP World History classes. If you're in my class, you write about 7 each week. So you know how to do a thesis statement, but just remember, you need to have the time period, you need to have the place, and you need to have a historically defensible argument. We'll go over John Mayering of a thesis in a little bit as we get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, the College Board is also grading you on your contextualization. Looking at the prompt. Can you put the prompt in its historical context? Do you understand what is going on around the world with that topic and in that specific place with that topic? They want you to put it in historical context. That's usually the introduction paragraph. You start out with about 3 to 4 sentences of context. You give a 1-sentence thesis. Intro paragraph done. You then move into your body paragraphs. Now, you can write between you can write as many body paragraphs as you want, but I would argue you should be writing about 2 to 3 body paragraphs, which are already outlined in your thesis statement. In your body paragraph, one of the most important things the College Board is looking for is for your use of historical evidence. If there's one thing where students get dinged, it's their use of evidence, because it's hard. Because you need to find historical evidence, facts, people, places, ideas, dates, events, things that actually happened and are provable. And you need to be pretty specific in order to get it. Not only do you have to name those things, but you also have to explain how they prove your argument. One of the words they use in here is utilizes the evidence to further their argument. So you need to use that evidence. So it's got to be specific, and you got to use it. Does that make sense? I use a really weird thing. I don't even know if it actually works, but I say I need something to grab onto. Like, I'm picturing myself trying to climb a mountain, and I'm trying to, like, grab onto a rock. If you give me something that's too vague, I fall and die. Let's just say I've died a few times this year. Yes, Zoe. You cannot use the test to take the test. I'm sorry. Yeah. Shh. Whoa, I gotta hear his question. You gotta remember facts and stuff. Preferably facts over stuff. Zoe, thank you for asking that question. That's something I never really thought of that I really want to make sure students are ready for. So thank you for asking that. That was good. Ladies and gentlemen, so you need not only evidence, but within your body and in your conclusion. This is the tricky part. You have to show your ability to provide analysis and reasoning. You need to be able to explain your argument and to show higher level historical thinking. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. It's been frustrating world history teachers and really all history teachers because AP US is the same thing and AP European history, it's the same thing. That's actually one of the nice things. I teach you how to write the essays. Ms. Jacobson teaches you how to write the essays. Then you just get to do it again in US history. And then when you take AP Euro with me as a senior, then you already know how to write the essays and I don't have to worry about it. I just assign a bunch of them. And Aiden will be in there with you. So you'll know Aiden will be taking Euro. This is probably one of the most difficult things to do because the College Board hasn't been very explicit for what exactly they're looking for. On the same token, this is what makes writing these history essays really fun for me. I think this is a really fun opportunity to show how much you know and your ability to make connections. So I call it analysis and synthesis instead of reasoning. There used to be a separate point for something called synthesis, but that's what it is. No. it is a thing. Part D used to be 2 categories. It used to be analysis and synthesis. Then they just combined it to make it more confusing, and I just said, I liked it better when it was like this, because it's literally the same. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you need to do for your analysis and reasoning is you need to demonstrate a complex understanding of the historical development. So you have to use something that either corroborates, qualifies, or modifies your argument. Again, if you're having a side conversation, you're distracting either yourself or somebody else. So, you have to use specific evidence to try to further your argument in some way. Now, the College Board gives you multiple options in order to do that. I say do more than one. So, usually in your body paragraphs, at the end of your body paragraph, you're going to explain the nuance of an issue by analyzing multiple variables. Here's something that's really nice. If you're ever talking about, I don't know, the expansion of political participation for people, for whatever reason, a really nice nuance is, well, women never get that. Does that make sense? Or for this time period, you're talking about the spread of luxury goods. Well, while that was true for the upper class, peasants weren't walking around with silk garments. That's not for your synthesis, that's for your analysis statement. Yes?
This is kind of nitpicky, but you were like, women never got to do that. Should you not use the word never?
Yeah, you should never use the word never. Yeah. That's the one absolute rule in history, is that you should never use absolutes. So, rarely. Well, in this time period, you should say women didn't get it. Yeah. Unless you're talking about, of course, the postmodern era. Yeah. So, you can also, in your body paragraph, the end of your body paragraph, you can explain your argument. Now, this is traditionally what I teach students to do for their analysis statements, right? If you're talking about a cause, why was it a cause? If you're talking about a similarity, why were they similar? If you're talking about a change, why was it a change? By explaining your argument, that should get you that point. Does that make sense? Now, the other way to do that is in your conclusion paragraph, I say extend your argument a little bit, so you can make a relevant and insightful connection within and across time periods. So if you're talking about a specific time period, and you know something that works with your argument happened in another place, use it, right? If you're talking about feudalism in Europe, then in your synthesis, you should talk about feudalism in Japan. Does that make sense? You can also talk about, if you see stratified social hierarchy in Europe during this time period, does Europe ever at another time period have a stratified social hierarchy? Yes. Cool? Aiden, Jackie. Qualify. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I'm going to teach you that a little bit later. In fact, starting next week. Jackie.
So for CCRT essays, do you think in our synthesis we should have like 2 pieces of evidence? Like if it's a change, like saying like it used to be like this and now it's like this. In our synthesis, should we have 2 pieces of evidence?
If you're going with a change, then yeah, you should say so. You still got to prove that it continued.
So you still have to do 2 pieces of evidence?
Yeah, that'd be the best way to do it. If you don't remember it from the beginning, but you know how it how it changed, they'll probably give you just the change. This is the hardest point to get in the essay.
If you do like write paragraphs or just use like an extend essay or whatever, will you get like how would that affect your score?
It'll just give you more opportunities to get evidence points, or one of those, right? Because that means you're doing 3 analysis statements and a synthesis. If they don't think you're demonstrating complex historical knowledge, I don't know what they want. Does that make sense? You're giving yourself more of an opportunity to do that. Cool. Good question. So this is basically what you're looking for with your essay. Just remember, you're getting graded on your thesis, your contextualization, your evidence, and your reasoning. For evidence, ladies and gentlemen, students always want to know, how much evidence is the College Board looking for? And the answer is, because it depends on the prompt. But let me give you a warning. if the prompt is super easy, if you look at the prompt and start like getting giddy, then they expect. I'm actually not kidding. Like people, the past few years, there's been like one prompt where they were like, right? If you think in your mind, boy, this prompt is easy, you better give a lot of evidence, right? You better give a lot of evidence. If you think the prompt is super vague, and you're like, they want me to talk about cricket in South Asia in 1942 only, right? That will never be. But what I'm saying is, if it gets to be that specific, then they'll be nicer with the number of evidence that they're expecting. But the College Board will have a number in their mind when they're grading your essay. Your safest bet, they will not tell you. Your safest bet is to have at least 3 pieces of evidence per body paragraph. Zoe's had her hand up for like ever. Zoe? For you, Aiden, it can be. Yeah. Listen, I can't tell you strategy. I don't think you should strategize that. I think whatever prompt, choose the prompt that you feel most comfortable with and go with that. Does that make sense? Like, if you feel if it's an easy prompt, go for it, right? Like, go for it. It's not like you're not gonna be that big of a difference. But I wouldn't strategize that much. If you feel comfortable with the super vague prompt, well, then do that. So there's a DBQ. You have to write the DBQ, and then because that's a lot of documents. We're gonna start tomorrow. So Roz, ask that question again. Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's so Roz. Let me rephrase that. Exactly, no. But has it been the same topic? Sure. In fact, I was just going over with AP European students the DBQ from last year, and it literally was the same prompt that they had to do presentations on, which didn't matter to you, but it was literally the same prompt. I'm not a magician, Roz. I just give you a lot of essay prompts, right? So I give you the shotgun approach. The reason you're doing so many essays is because I want you to think about things in the way that the College Board has kind of told me they like to think about things. So my essay prompts are usually something I've looked at in some of the course exam descriptions. I'm not a magician, but yes, usually it's at least related to. Sorry, Aiden has had his hand up for a very long time. You just blank, blank, and blank. 2 changes, 1 continuity, whatever your argument is. Especially if it's an extent essay, you want to... Yeah, that's fine. So Aiden, let me clarify for you for just a second. And you guys can kind of tune me out for a second. My students who are in my class, you can listen. You know how my prompts usually say analyze 1 and analyze 1, right? The College Board told me they were going to do that a couple of years ago, right? They said this is what it's going to be, and then they did it 1 year, and then they didn't do it the next year. So they stopped saying give me 1 and 1. So they're just going to say analyze similarities and differences in, or describe and explain similarities and differences. So yeah, they could do it either way. So 3 paragraphs is still good. If they say 1 and 1, give 1 and 1. But if they don't specify and you have enough evidence in your mind and arguments to do 3, go with 3. And time. Here. Same type of essay, 3 different time periods. That's the way I understand it, yeah. No. Cannot. Can't even handle you right now. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and practice essays. There you go. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I want you on your own. I want you on your own to try to come up with an answer to this question. I want you to come up with an answer to this question. Now, I want you to practice on your own for 5 minutes. I'll let you share. We'll come up with some examples. But I want you to do that. If you get some good ideas, then I would try to put a thesis. The first thing I always want you to do when you see an essay prompt is I want you to break it down. I want you to read that prompt, right? So you know what I say when analyze, right? EPAC, spice is nice for Miss Jacobson. Bam, spice. That's fine. 2 causes for the spread of Islam outside of the Arabian Peninsula from 600 to 1450, right? So you got to figure out 2 causes. So the first thing you do here is you brainstorm everything you know about the expansion of Islam. Got it? Brainstorm everything you know, and then you can start figuring out 2 causes. And then I would write it down. Got it? 5 minutes by yourself. 5 minutes by yourself. Go. Keep going. Keep thinking. Keep thinking. 30 seconds. Because we only have 4 minutes, and I want to get something out. Eight. What do you mean by 7, 6? Yes, it's exactly what I mean. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That would probably work. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the question. It says analyze, so we want to break down into EPEX or SPICE, the causes of the spread of Islam. Now, I told you something about Islam before. Islam was not just a religion. What else was it? So it's an empire. So you can look at this as a why does the religion spread and why does the empire spread? Does that make sense? Let's go with the easier one. Why does the empire spread? Conquering, right? Why did any empire expand? They expand because they want to conquer. Ladies and gentlemen, you remember this from the Umayyad dynasty. Why is the expansion of the Islamic Empire usually, gentlemen in the class's favorite thing to talk about? Very good, ladies and gentlemen, because the tradition of giving booty out to soldiers was a reason for the expansion of Islam. Now, let me be more specific so Mr. Ewert doesn't go home and tell his mother what I was teaching. Now, never would do that. What I mean by booty is it was nomadic tradition that if you helped to conquer for your Khan or your leader, then you would get a piece of the spoils. The spoils are known as booty. So if you said one of the causes for the expansion of Islam was the violent conquest for soldiers by soldiers seeking booty, you would be correct. Okay? That is John Mayer, the booty part. In Islam? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I don't want to talk about that part. Violent conquest. You could have also said violent conquest to extract resources and control trade. Very good, Herod. Another way that we see Islam spreading. It's actually not what I was going to go for first, but I'm glad a lot of you brought it up. Is through merchant activity. Right? In foreign lands. Right? Now, let me ask you this, because it goes into the analysis point, and this is when my class, when I say you have to John Mayer your thesis, you can't just say this. You got to say what you mean to say. You got to say what you mean to say. You got to say what you mean to say. You got to say what you mean to say. You got to say what you mean to say. You got to John Mayer it. So, why is it that Islam is spreading because of merchants? But explain to me why. All right. No, help me out here. Zoe, help me out here. Why else does merchant activity cause the spread of Islam? Hold on. Let Zoe got it.
Exactly, right? Ladies and gentlemen, you're a bumble scum merchant from West Africa, right? And you get approached by these Muslim Berbers who had just invented the camel and come across the Sahara Desert, right? And they're asking you about trading. Then they start talking to you about this religion. You want to trade with them. So when they say, hey, you want to convert? You say, yeah. Right? Yeah, I do, because it connects you to a more powerful civilization. Does that make sense? Right? It does. Yes.
That's violent conquest. Yeah. You could, yes. Islam spreads there too. Srijavaya is going to be more Buddhism. Yeah, you have Islam spreading out there as well. So, yes. So wait. Why else does Islam spread? I mean, you could say increased interaction. You could see increased trade because of technology. But ladies and gentlemen, we're being a little cynical here. Why does Islam spread for some people? It's a new religion, right? It's a religion that provides hope. Allah, you can talk about an afterlife. Yeah, 5 pillars. It gives you community. Roz and then Emma. To avoid or to gain status within a conquered region. Okay. There are other things. I just want to, because we're over our time and I want to respect your time. So let's just do this. Let's just put this into a thesis really quickly and then we'll go. Okay? Now, every thesis needs a time period. So, and we use exact. Good. I just want to be, whoa, sorry. Yeah, it is up here. I just want to be clear. A really good thing, and please do this, right? This prompt should serve as the frame for your thesis. Don't try to get too complicated. Use the prompt to frame your thesis. Don't just say the prompt, but use the prompt to frame it. So you always start with our time period. So from 600 CE to 1450 CE, what's the main idea of our prompt? 2 causes for the spread of Islam outside of the Arabian Peninsula. You can. Was the violent conquest by the Islamic Caliphates. I'm going to do this for just a second. And merchant activity that provided a connection to a wealthy So to end us off, I'll just read off my thesis statement. I don't promise that it's perfect, but it would be a good kind of first draft as you're going. Yeah, from 6. It's an official word. From 600 to 1450, two causes for the spread of Islam outside of the Arabian Peninsula was violent conquest by the Islamic caliphates as soldiers were promised booty, and merchant activity that provided a connection to a wealthier civilization.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.